Hi everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are making something super yummy for dinner. We are making steamed bao. Bao are little buns that usually have a filling in them. The filling can be savory or sweet. Sometimes they are steamed, sometimes they are baked. Today we are going to steam them. I have made them before with red beans, which was like a sweet filling. I've made them with pork, which was of course a savory filling, and that was really, really good. Today we are going to make them with chicken. We're making them with chicken basically because I have a lot of chicken on hand, and I'm a firm believer in using whatever you have. So basically what I have going is I have chicken going in the crock pot. They are chicken drumsticks that I got on sale. I got a bunch of packs. They were like $2 for a whole, I think it was a 6-pack of drumsticks. So we're going to use that. Once that's nice and cooked and tender and falling off the bone, we're going to take the meat off. We're going to chop it up finely, and then that's going to be part of our filling. The other things that are going in the filling are some vegetables, some spices, going to mix it up, and then going to have them for dinner. By no means is this a very traditional or genuine recipe. This is something I've made before following other people's recipes, and this one I'm just kind of making up as I go along with the ingredients that I have. Most of the ingredients I have on hand. There's a couple things that I had to go out and buy. I did somehow, again, lose footage of me describing what I put in the dough. The dough is very simple. It's basically 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of water, a packet of active dry yeast, and a little bit of sugar just to activate the yeast. So basically what I did was into a cup of lukewarm water, I put a packet of active dry yeast with a teaspoon of sugar and just let that get nice and bubbly. And when that was nice and active, I put it into my flour, and then I'll show you what it looked like after it was mixed up. I used my stand mixer. You don't have to. You can mix it by hand and knead it by hand. I just have the mixer, so I use it. Okay? All right, well, let's get to it. Now you want to let your dough knead, I should say, for several minutes until it's nice and smooth. I don't know if you noticed, but the bottom of the bowl was nice and clean. I did start out with just under 3 cups of flour. You might have to adjust because of, the temperature or the humidity of where you live. Proofing this dough, what I'm going to do now, I live in a cooler climate during the winter months. We are in northwestern Pennsylvania, which gets quite cold in the winter months. So I have to do take a couple extra steps just to make sure that my dough proofs well. So what I do, when you live in a cool climate, you have to adapt. I will put this dough in the bowl after I oil it up a little bit just so it doesn't stick to the bowl too much. I will put it inside of my oven that is shut off. You can just turn the light on. And I also have a little bit of water boiling on the stove. When it comes up to a boil, I will actually put that in the oven with my dough, and that's going to create a nice, warm, humid environment for my dough to proof. That's just something I have to do in the winter months. Here in the summer, it's not a problem. It's hot, it's humid, but in the winter, it's not always easy to get your dough to proof just right. But that is just like a little trick I use. Sometimes, you can take a heating pad and maybe put it underneath, on low underneath your dough if you're having trouble with the proofing. Make sure that your yeast is active. That's why I proof it first. but that's what I'm going to do. And that's going to actually proof for probably a couple hours until it's nice and soft and full of air. And then we're going to punch it down and actually proof it for another half an hour before we divide it into our little bao. But I will start on the filling. My filling will also have carrots. So I have these carrots that are left over from Thanksgiving, and they're in water. This is just a little trick to keep your carrots nice and crispy. I have these cut up just because I was cutting them up for our stuffing. But I'm going to actually put this in my food processor and just pulse it a little bit just to get it into small pieces. And I'm going to do that with an onion as well. And then I'm going to saute it for just a couple minutes just because I don't want to put raw vegetables. You know, I don't want it to be too crunchy. The other vegetables that are going to go in there is going to be a little bit of garlic and Napa cabbage. I've never actually used Napa cabbage before, so I can't tell you what it tastes like, but we'll definitely taste it before we use it. But I'm going to actually slice this up very, very thin, and I'll show you what that looks like too, and that's going to go in our filling as well. A little bit of ginger. Apparently you can't buy just like a little knob of ginger in our local grocery stores, so I have to figure out how to preserve this because we're only going to use a little bit. The other thing we're going to use is some sesame oil, just a tiny little bit. It is very strong, so if you use too much, you're going to taste it for days. But I'll show you what everything looks like once I get it nice and prepped. So I've got one pretty small onion in here along with the carrots. I would say probably about 1.5 cups of carrots. And we're just going to pulse these. So this is about the consistency that I want them. A couple larger chunks really won't matter. But I'm going to saute this for just a couple minutes, just so it's not raw going into my filling. The carrots and onions are nicely sauteed together with just a little bit of butter. So we'll let those cool off before we put them in with everything else. So I have my garlic and my ginger here. I just put the garlic through a garlic press. The ginger I just chopped up. I'm actually going to put those in the carrots just so that they can warm up a little bit and get nice and aromatic. Our chicken is done cooking, so I'm going to take it out of the crock pot. It's just got some salt on it. I put a little soy sauce in there. So we're going to take it out, let it cool off, just enough so that I can handle it and shred it. Okay, so I'm going to take off some of these leaves. I already took off some of the outer leaves. Those are going to go to my chickens. I think this one's going to go to them too. It's quite dirty, so it's going to go to the sink, get nice and clean, and then I'm going to go through the salad spinner, and then we'll chop it up. And this will be like a little bit of crunch. We're not going to cook this cabbage prior to putting it in the bao. So hopefully they'll stay a little bit crunchy. It's okay if they don't. But this is not going to be cooked before. So that's how we're going to process the cabbage. Let me get this nice and cleaned up. And then we'll get to slicing. So I took the meat off the bones. It was all done. And then I just chopped it up with my knife. So there's little bigger pieces, smaller pieces. So really will not matter in the end. I went out and gave the chickens the cabbage scraps and picked up a few eggs. Aren't these colors gorgeous? Okay, so I took our dough out of the oven and it has pretty much doubled in size. And all I'm gonna do now is just punch it down, meaning get all the air out. I'm gonna reshape it into a nice ball again. And we're gonna let it rise for another half an hour. So, which means I am going to put another pot of boiling water in the oven with this again. Okay, so I will see you when that is all done. Okay, so we're gonna mix up our filling now. Now here I have my carrots and onions, and I have my chicken here, and I did add a little bit of the liquid from the crock pot. So that would have been just basically like chicken broth and a little bit of soy sauce. So I'm gonna mix this up, and I didn't put all the carrots in just because I wasn't sure how much I was gonna need. So I left some out. I'm gonna see what it looks like. We're gonna add the cabbage. I do wanna make sure this is nice and combined. I want to put my pot of boiling water in the stove. So there's that, and then I'm gonna add in my cabbage. Again, I'm gonna leave a little bit out just so that it's not overpowering. Do that. Oop. So I'm gonna add a little soy sauce. I'm gonna taste it. I'm gonna add a little pepper. I don't want a lot. I don't want it too salty. Remember, there was soy sauce in that liquid from the crock pot. I'm gonna put a little pepper in here. And there's my dog barking to come in. Okay, I'm gonna taste it. Oh, you know what? I'm missing a very important ingredient. And that is sesame oil. Now again, be sparing with this. Just do it sparingly because you will taste it for days if you put too much in, but it is delicious. Okay, so we definitely need more seasoning. We're gonna do more soy sauce, more pepper. And of course, you can put whatever spices you want in here. I think I'm gonna do a little cayenne. Just a little bit. Now I am going to put a little bit more of the sauce or the liquid from the crock pot, but I'm actually going to put a little cornstarch in it to make it a little thicker. And then I'll be back once I get that done. Okay, so I did add the rest of my carrots. I did feel that it needed the rest of them, and I think this looks much better. And then I added it was probably a 1/4 cup of the broth, I guess you can call it, from the crock pot from cooking the chicken. You wash my spoon and we'll taste it again. Okay, let's see where we're at here. That is much better. And of course you can adjust this to your taste. So now, actually I think I'm gonna add the rest of this cabbage. There's not much. Might as well use it. Okay. So what I'm gonna do with this now is I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator and just kind of let all the flavors marry together while my dough is still proofing. And I will see you once that is done. All right, now that we've thoroughly trashed our kitchen, we're gonna get back to our dough here, which has risen quite nicely. Look at that. So we're gonna turn it out onto our surface here. And I'm gonna try to get 16 bao out of this. So we'll see if that works out that way. So we're going to just knock it back a little bit and shape it. And then try to cut our pieces. And we're gonna roll the pieces into nice little balls so that we can work better with them. So we'll do half this way. And they don't have to be identical. Actually, I think this might be closer to 12. No, I think we'll remember, these are gonna rise again, so you don't want to make them too, the original pieces too big or too small, because you're gonna roll them out and they're gonna rise again. So we're gonna pinch them back into a little ball and then roll them around just to get a little sphere here. We're gonna put that there. And we're gonna do that for 16 pieces. And I'm gonna put a little towel over the ones that are waiting there so that they do not dry out too much. So that's pretty much what we're gonna do for now. And let me tell you, this dough feels so good. That's how you know you made a really good dough. It always feels good. It's soft, it's warm. Love it. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna roll out our little dough ball here. And what you wanna do is just kind of roll it into a mostly circular shape. So I like to do it with my fingers. Now, I do not pretend to know how to do this. And let me tell you, getting these crimped the way you see them in these perfect pictures of food from restaurants and movies and whatnot, they are not easy. But what you want to do is get them rolled pretty flat. Now the middle here should be a little bit thicker, so you want to roll the sides out a little bit thinner. never stay in a perfect circle. And then we'll put about a spoonful of filling in. So let me go do that. So here's our filling, and we're gonna start crimping. And like I said, I fail at this every time. It never works right. But in the end, after you steam them, they always look gorgeous. Not sure what kind of magic that is, but so I just kind of crimp them and bring them in and hope for the best. Just kind of squeeze them all together. This filling smells amazing. You can smell the sesame oil, which is just yummy. I like to crimp them closed. Sometimes they leave them open in the middle, but not perfect, not the worst. So I'm gonna get all 16 done, and then we'll let them rise for a little bit longer. But here I go. So after your bao are done, now this has to rise a little bit more, but I'm actually going to cook this one just to show you how we're going to do that. I have my steamer going, my bamboo steamer, in a pot of water, and I'm just going to put it right into the top section, and we're going to steam it for 20 minutes. Now if you notice, I put it in a little cupcake liner. That's a little cheater way, I guess, of doing it. You can do this on parchment paper. You can just lay some cabbage leaves down in your steamer and put it in there, but this is how we're going to do it today. So I will see you in 20 minutes. Okay, so we've got our bao in the oven proofing. They'll get just a little bit more plump before we put them in the steamer. I do have the one that I put in the steamer cooking right now, so we can do a little taste test. Not that we can adjust the seasoning anymore, but I have a little bit of filling left. I probably should have just stuffed a little more in a few of them, but that's okay. This is fully cooked, so I can just eat it with a spoon if I want, and I'm probably gonna. So I will show you what our bao look like. We have 5 more minutes left in the cooking. Okay, so we are gonna check on our bao here. It's been 20 minutes. Looks yummy. We'll let that cool off for a second before we try it. Okay, so it is still pretty hot, but I'm gonna try to open it up and see. Ooh, that's hot. It smells so good. I'll try some of this bread. It's so good. Oh, I completely ripped it apart now. So I'll try it with a fork. Had I waited until this was nice and cooled off, I could have picked it up and eaten it just like that. Very good. Yeah, so the rest of them I'm going to let them proof a little bit more, and then they're going to go in the oven or in the steamer. And then I will show you how my family likes them.